Welcome to the Explainer. Ever stop to think about the words on your screen? Not what they say, but how they look? That's typography. It's this invisible force that shapes how you read and feel about everything you see every single day. So today, we're going to make it visible. Okay, so here's what we've got lined up. We're going to start with why this stuff even matters. Then we'll get into the nitty-gritty, the anatomy of the letters themselves. After that, we'll see how the pros build these massive type systems. We'll cover some super practical rules for making text easy on the eyes, and then we'll peek into the future of fonts. So, first up, why typography matters. I mean, why should you even care, right? It's easy to think, oh, it's just about picking a pretty font. But trust me, it goes so much deeper than that. You know, this quote from Google's guide just hits the nail on the head. A typeface, think of it like a raw ingredient. You could have the most amazing, high-quality ingredient, but if you have no idea how to cook, you're going to make a mess. Typography, that's the recipe. It's how you combine everything to make something that's actually enjoyable to consume, or in this case, to read. So yeah, at its core, typography is all about the decisions you make with a type. It's about arranging it. Things like spacing, size, weight, these are like little knobs you can turn. Get them right, and you create this seamless, comfortable reading experience. But get them wrong, and suddenly reading becomes a chore. It's frustrating, and you might not even know why. All right, let's get into the anatomy of type. To really get a handle on this, we've got to speak the language. So let's break down the parts of a letter and learn some of the key terms. Okay, first up, serifs. You've seen these a million times, even if you didn't know their name. They're those little feet you see on the ends of letters, especially in classic traditional fonts. Think Times New Roman. They were originally made for print, and the idea is that they create this nice, solid line for your eye to follow, which makes reading long blocks of text just a little bit easier. Now this next one, this is a big one, especially for designing for screens. The X height. It's literally just the height of the lowercase x in a font. So why is this so important? Well, a font with a bigger X height just feels more open, more legible, especially when the text gets really small, like on your phone. It basically gives the letters more room to breathe. Then you've got weight. And this one's pretty straightforward. It's just how thick or thin the strokes of a letter are. But don't let the simplicity fool you. This is one of the most powerful tools you have. Playing with weight, going from, say, a light version to a bold one, is how you create contrast and show what's important. It's how you direct the reader's eye without saying a word. And this brings us to the classic showdown, serif versus sans serif. Sans just means without in French. So a sans serif font is, you guessed it, a font without those little feet. They have a cleaner, more modern vibe, which is why you see them everywhere on websites and apps today. Okay, let's quickly clear something up that trips a lot of people up. The difference between a typeface and a font. It's actually pretty easy. The typeface is the whole family, the design itself, like, say, Helvetica. The font is the specific file on your computer, like helveticabold.ttf. So a single typeface is made up of many different fonts. All right, so now that we know the basic building blocks, let's talk about building a whole typographic system. This is where the magic really happens. See, the pros, they don't just pick a font and call it a day. They build these comprehensive systems to keep everything clear and consistent. And we're going to look at how the biggest players in tech do it. I mean, look at companies like Apple and Google. They don't mess around with this stuff. Apple's whole system is built around their font, San Francisco, and their #1 goal is pure legibility on every single device. Google, with their material design and Roboto font, is all about creating a really clear hierarchy and a consistent brand feel across their entire ecosystem of apps. And the core of these systems, it's something called a type scale. All that is a set of predefined sizes for everything, from a giant punchy headline down to a tiny little caption. And this isn't just about making things look nice. It creates a visual rhythm, a clear hierarchy, so that you, the user, can just glance at a screen and immediately understand what's going on. It's subconscious, but it's incredibly powerful. Okay, on to section 4, rules for great readability. We've seen the big system-level thinking. Now let's zoom in on a few practical rules. These are simple things that make a huge difference in how easy your text is to read. First thing, line length. Typographers call it the measure, and there's a real sweet spot here. If your lines of text are way too long, your eye kind of gets tired and lost trying to find the start of the next line. But if they're too short, it feels choppy, and you can't get into a good reading rhythm. The Goldilocks zone, it's right around 40 to 60 characters per line. All right, take a look at this. This is a perfect example of what not to do. The line height, what the pros call leading, is way too tight. You see how the letters from one line are practically crashing into the letters on the line below? It just feels cramped. It's a real headache to try and read. But watch this. Just by adding a little more space between the lines, boom, everything has room to breathe. All of a sudden, your eye can just glide across the page. The difference is night and day, right? It's such a simple change, but the impact is massive. And this is maybe the most important rule of all: prioritize accessibility. We're talking about using font sizes that people can actually read, no more squinting. You also want to avoid those super thin, light font weights that just disappear into the background. And a huge one is making sure your design works with features like dynamic type. You know, that setting on your phone that lets you make the text bigger everywhere? A great design has to respect that a user might need to do that. Okay, for our last section, let's look to the future. There are a couple of new technologies that are seriously changing the game, totally redefining what letters can even do. First, we have something called variable fonts. So get this. Instead of having a whole folder of font files, one for regular, one for bold, one for italic, a variable font packs all of that into a single file. What that means is the font can smoothly change its own shape. It can get wider or thinner or bolder, all on the fly to perfectly fit whatever space it's in. It's amazing. And then there are color fonts. I mean, for basically all of history, letters have been one color, right? Black on white? Well, color fonts completely blow that up. We're talking about fonts that can have multiple colors, different shades, even gradients, all built right into the character itself. The creative possibilities here are just wow. It's a whole new world. So all of this leaves us with a pretty big question to chew on. If our letters can now have basically infinite shapes and colors, how is that going to change the way we tell stories? When text can be this dynamic, this expressive, the way we communicate is bound to evolve. What kind of stories can we tell when the words themselves can come alive? Definitely something to think about. Thanks for joining us.